in the last expedition, the latest member of the team, Mike Honcho, took me out to find this old abandoned fire tower in Bibb County. Then he took me down the road to the Cahaba River to see this amazing ruins of an 1896 railroad crash that killed several people when it plunged off of this trestle into the river below. Stay with me and you'll hear the whole story. Now, if you keep rolling down this road here, you'll run right into Piper, or you'll drive right past it. And I've been down this road on a street bike, a few hundred yards maybe, and it started getting rough, so I never actually made it down this far. I don't think it was the creek crossing that turned me around. It seemed like it was getting rough before this point, but there are some really amazing roads back here. I would suggest if you're not on a motorcycle or something with high clearance, you're going to have trouble getting in here. So in other words, if you want to come down here and check this out, and you're not on a motorcycle, be aware that good chance you're going to get stuck in here. Found one guy in here. We talked to him for a little bit in a pickup truck, sitting around cooking over a fire, and he said he got stuck one time and he had to pull somebody else out another time. So even when it's dry like today, it's I would say rough. So I would say minimum high clearance vehicle if you want to get back in here, but definitely know what you're doing and know what the capabilities of your vehicle is if you do try this. But nice riding, good little creek crossing in there, and a good place to roll through the woods. The Cahaba is an extraordinary river. In this spot, you get closer to Birmingham, it's not as pretty, it's not as nice, it's all swampy and muddy and lots of crap in the river. But down here, you will see the Cahaba lilies, which were in fact in bloom. It's one of the great surprises of the state of Alabama is that we have this wonderful river that has a lily in bloom this time of year, and from what I remember, this lily only grows in one place on the Cahaba. Seemed like I heard somebody tell me something different, that it maybe grows somewhere else, but it grows in the middle of the creek, or grows in the middle of a river on these shoals, specifically in this one place. There may be some other places, but wide, shallow shoals along the Cahaba. And we're rolling up to the piers. The only thing that's left on this on the railroad crossing, the trestles are all gone, but the piers are still there. And when I first got off the bike, I was a little bit surprised to see not only these huge monster piers, or these huge structures sticking out of the river, but these secondary structures on the outside. And here's one of them right here. But you could tell this is real craftsmanship. And just think about this. Somebody put this together back in the late 1800s, and obviously it's still there. And the main trestles in the center of the river survived even a train crashing into them, which is really extraordinary. And I'm pretty sure I have been to the other side of the river. You can see I'm looking at the dirt road that's coming down. I imagine in the summer that you can actually cross this, because the shoals are, for the most part, they're fairly shallow. In the summer when it hasn't been raining for a while, I imagine it's pretty low, less than maybe a foot or two. You could certainly get out here and walk, and you can see these things are amazing. It's hard to believe that a train crossed over this river, those trestles at this height. It's just unbelievable. The workmanship and the quality that went into these piers is quite extraordinary, and just being up next to them, other than the age and the weathering, it looked like they could have been made within the past 10-15 years. But this is what you would have seen back in the day, back in the late 1800s, crossing this river. And it may have been the last thing that you saw if you were coming back for the holidays. It was a bunch of coal miner families coming back from Birmingham area, and they were coming back to Piper, most of them, after visiting for the holidays. And apparently, the train jumped the track and started bouncing along the rail bed on top of this trestle. And I'm not sure exactly which direction the train was going, but from what I read, it looks like it was coming to this side rather than the other side. But you can see here's a picture of the aftermath the next morning, and it looks like the top of that pier is damaged. The top of the pier on the left is damaged quite a good bit. And the stories that I read, one was from a Dallas newspaper even, talking about sabotage and the possibility that somebody came out there and removed a section of rail from the track on the trestle. And that is what caused the derailment. I'm not really sure. All I know is what I've read. And they're not even sure how many people were on the train, but several people survived the crash, and possibly many more survived the initial crash. But when the cars crashed into the river, they caught fire because all the cars were heated by coal fires. So there was coal furnace in each car, and when it crashed into the river, they caught fire. So the people that died and couldn't get out in time died in the fire. And you can see there's not much left of those wooden cars. They didn't make a whole lot of cars out of steel. They may have had a steel frame, but the cabs, the places where the people sat, were on the inside. They were made of wood, and that's why there's not much left. You can see a bunch of wreckage there, but it's hard to see much of anything else. But if you look to the other side, you can see what is left of the trestle up there and what is left of the actual train. And it's just shocking how high this thing was up there. But this is a pretty deep crossing, apparently. But you can see what's left of the train at the top on the tracks. And you can see that the trestles themselves, the frame of the trestles, go down to those other piers that I passed on the way in. And I'm not sure which side is which, but I'm guessing that that's what's left of the train. So it was coming from Birmingham. That's the Birmingham side there, the northern side. But it was pretty extraordinary to see these things still in such good condition. here's a better view of the piers that I'd walked past earlier, and I'm not sure if the photo was taken from this side or the other side, but you can see these things are in just as good a condition as the larger piers in the river. But that just tells you how good workmanship was back in the day compared to nowadays. So we loaded up and headed back the way we came and crossed the highway back to get to the other side so we could see if the lilies were still in bloom, and turns out that they were. Just a short, quick trip down the trail we came in and crossed the highway, and the truly accessible side is on the other side of the highway. So if you want to come check out this section, you probably should hike in if you're not on a motorcycle. And the other side is completely accessible by car, passenger car, and lots of places to park over there too. So go check that out if you want.